All right, guys. So here we are in Adobe Medium, which is the sculpting app that I chose to do a deep dive and start sculpting with. I'm gonna be honest, this is not literally the first time that I'm using this. Like I said in the previous video, I tried it once about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years and a half or something like that. I didn't quite like it at that time, but I know everything VR related evolved a lot since then. So I'm recording this video on my second day with the VR headset, meaning yesterday I did got into Oculus and the Adobe Medium, and I actually sculpted something with it. And for those of you following my social media, uh, I posted the little hand that I sculpted. But basically, today is my second time really, trying to figure out how things works and whatnot. So I'm gonna be, trying to understand all of the controllers and to see how everything actually works. Hopefully, you guys can see my screen in a similar way that I can see here. Of course, I'm seeing in VR, which means that I have depth, so I feel that I'm moving around instead of just just working on a flat surface. That's the biggest difference between sculpting in VR and sculpting on the computer, right? I would say like it doesn't, to me at least, doesn't really feel like traditional sculpting. It feels like something else, which is also very exciting. Uh, so yeah, here we go. So you launch the application, and it looks like this. So you are in this virtual world, you know, I'm in the center of the world, I guess. And then on the right stick, like it asks you if you are right-handed or left-handed, and I said I'm right-handed. So here on my right stick, I have my main tool where I can create stuff, or I can draw with, or I can paint. And on the left side, I have a bunch of adjustments and layers and stuff like that. So let's just kind of go get into it. So on I'm gonna try to explain what I know, but like I said, I know very little. So we're gonna kind of go. We're gonna get into it together, right? So that's the whole fun about this series is like, uh, like learning together, so you all guys can see a real learning curve from the application side from someone that it's not very used to it. All right, so I know that if I move my thumb stick up, I have access to a bunch of tools here. So I have the clay. The ones that I used yesterday were the clay brush, move brush, and inflate. And then the smooth, there is a little hotkey that we're gonna see in a little bit. The cut, flatten, swirl, and the paint. I haven't had the chance to really explore what these do. And then here we also have a couple more shortcuts. So we have a new layer, and we can toggle the mirror on and off, and some other options, right? That I haven't really tried those yet. So if I move my thumbstick down, and then this one I don't need to hold. Like for the up one, I need to hold, and if I release, it kind of goes away. Uh, Thumbstick down is just it's just like a button that I press, and now enables me like the settings of the world. That's how I see it. So I can click on my light, and then the funny thing is that I don't even think about what I'm doing. These guys are just genius because they designed something in a way that feels very intuitive. So, like I said, I want to click on that guy, and to me, the easiest way to do that is to just use my index finger, right? So I just clicked on the index finger, and then it felt like, all right, I'm selecting this, and then these three little guys here, my middle finger, for example, that's the one that I use to hold like this yellow button here. This one just makes me rotate or control the item that I have selected. So honestly, this one, I never watched any tutorials on this part, for example. I've watched a bunch of tutorials on the sculpting part. So Geo, for example, I'll put a link here in the description, and then you guys can watch his demo. It was just mind blowing. So I really felt that I had a head start yesterday because it wasn't that I was trying to figure out techniques to sculpt. in VR because the guy already did kind of the hard work, right? So it was just me basically trying to play with, um, like different conceptual ideas. But anyway, so I selected this, and then here I never like I was saying, I never really saw anyone talking about this, but it just felt very intuitive. So I have this selected. I can just move the light around. So if I select this guy, I can do the same thing. I guess I just with this one I don't need to select. I can just point and just kind of move. The little camera I can select and I can do the same thing. I don't know what that camera is used for yet, um, but I guess we will figure it out together, right? Um, yeah, I don't know if it's like a webcam or sort of like something like that. Maybe it is. I don't know. So here on the layer system, again, very straightforward. You have world, which controls the whole world, and then you can collapse. And then I have my scene origin, and then I have like my sculpt and my layer. That's the one that I'm. Well, there's nothing here, but that's the one I'm going to be using to sculpt. So if you are used to Photoshop or any um, sculpting app, I guess you are very familiar with the layer system. That's kind of easy to understand. You have the toggle on and off visibility, right? So you can make these layers invisible and whatnot, and then you can select them here. Or something that I discovered, if you hold, all right, yeah, like again, I don't know, it was very intuitive, but if you hold the selecting button, the right one, sorry, the left index finger, and then it's almost like the shift. So I hit this one and I hit this one and I have both selected. So now I can move both at the same time, and I can move with both hands. So the yellow guy here and the yellow guy here, they kind of do the same thing. And then if I hold both and I do this, I'm kind of playing with the scale. So all right, so I'm kind of moving things around, and then I'm scaling. We're gonna be doing this all the time when sculpting. And like I said, maybe there's a different way of doing these things. I don't know, but that's like I said, I'm gonna be repeating myself a lot because it does feel very intuitive. Like um, you don't have to think about these things. Okay, so a couple little things that I discovered last night is whenever you have a layer selected, you can see that uh, it's gonna display the layer that I have selected here, and then a couple different options. So for the scene origin, for example, I only have manipulation, like the little guy that maybe allows me to manipulate or do whatever. But I know if I select the sculpting layer, I have a bunch of like different actions. So one thing that I didn't like about the default setup is how light it is, right? And then if you look at people sculpting in VR, they usually have a pretty dark environment, just having like a one light source. It makes things way easier to see when you have just a one light and very strong shadows. The same thing with when you're drawing and whatnot. Keeps things on a simpler side. So if you go to the world, select the world, go to settings, and then here you have the settings of the whole world, I guess. So I have sun brightness. I'm just gonna tone that down. I can, and then you have IBL, which to me it's almost like a cube map. So it's just like an environment map that you can come up. You can find a couple. Change the color, and then you have a couple of different textures here that you can choose from. But in this case, I kind of turned it off. I believe yesterday I had it to 0.1, so there's a little bit of like fill light coming from the environment, so it's not like pitch black. I do not like the floor, so I removed the skybox, which is not doing anything anymore, and then I removed the ground plane, and then bloom. I guess I kept it on just for the sake of seeing if I'm super close to the light, but I'm not sure if it actually did something. So, all right, so let's just keep diving here. So, for the layer, you now have options for the materials, which is pretty handy. And then this one, I actually created a material that I liked yesterday, and then I know I can save and I can load them here. You can make it metallic, emissive, and whatnot. On actions, you can select a bunch of layers and merge. That's the one I use. I did not use intersect or subtract, but I guess these are just Boolean operations. Oh, flip. I didn't notice that yesterday. So I guess you can just mirror and just flip the geometry. We'll see. We can give it a shot later. And then you have stamp, which I never used again, but that seems pretty cool. We can try. Center bounds, I don't know what that's for. I guess I can read, but center the sculpt bounds for the selected layer. Oh, I guess that's the bounding box that kind of surrounding us. So that I think these are not real geometry. So the way the geometry or the way the model is created is using it's almost like voxels. I don't want to don't quote me on that because I'm not exactly sure if it's the terminology, the correct terminology is voxels, but we can Google it and we can search it later. But basically, there is a bounding box, and then you create the objects within the bounding box. So I guess this just kind of centers it to keep it a little bit more control on the resolution. I guess we will figure it out, and then you can increase the resolution and you can decrease the resolution, but it's going to be recomputing it every time, as far as I understand. So it's not subdivisions that you're going up and down. This is mainly just increasing the density of the voxels. The way I see it, it's a little bit closer to how Dynamesh works, right? You cannot go up and down, but you can keep going up. But once you go down, you lose the information, right? You cannot go back to it. And I guess I can rename the layer. I can toggle my visibility, duplicate. That's the one I used a bunch yesterday. So I would sculpt something like a finger, for example, and I would duplicate. And then manipulation, you have some transforms. That's the way you can actually rotate the models around. I didn't try any of these, but I only used the default one here. Cool. So we're gonna create a new layer. I guess we don't need. Let's just select the layer, and then let's just start sculpting. So there's a button here on the middle of the right stick, the right controller. If I click, it's gonna give me all of the brushes configurations, right? So maybe I need to hold it. Yeah, I think I need to hold it. But so basically, I have a lot of like different settings for the brush, and in this case, I'm using the clay brush, as you guys can see here. So let's just start. I'm just gonna create a sphere. There you go. And if I double tap on this guy, I go from green, which is positive, from red, which is negative. So I can basically use these to carve out my models, right? That's not really how I usually sculpt, although this can be very interesting. So what I did yesterday, and basically just following all the tutorials that I saw online, and kind of adding a little bit of my own twist to it, I started with a sphere. So let's just try to do something real quick here. So I can click on this guy and just move him around here, or I can just do this with my two hands. Let's just move this light this direction a little bit, and now I have this sphere here in my hands, which I can rotate, which I can move. We can also toggle the symmetry, but let's just not do that. Let's not worry about that today. Let's just keep things very simple. So after the sphere is here, I don't like the color. This is a little bit too wide, right? So I'm gonna go with the paint brush, and I'm gonna click on the color wheel, and I'm gonna go with green 128 gray. And then on the button here on the settings of the brush, I can just stomp. So I'm just gonna click on the guy, and then there you go. It's gray. And now the material doesn't really look like the way I used to sculpt in ZBrush, for example, or in Mudbox or any like digital applications. I think it's missing a little bit of spec, and the roughness a little bit too low. So let's just kind of go down, and then that will enable us to select the layer. And then here on settings, I can find the settings of the material, right? So I can do maybe specular. Let's just put it like 0.5 or 0.4, sorry, which it's a little bit better. Roughness, maybe 0.75 or something like that. All right, so that feels much nicer already, at least to my eyes. I'm not sure how the video you guys are watching, you can actually see. But the way I see these, this is actually a sphere, right? So like I'm going around the sphere here, which is pretty insane. So um, one thing that really blew my mind, and of course we are in VR and we know that like we are sculpting in 3D, and we talk about that. But once you experience it just changes your perception. It changes how you think about modeling in the computer. And I come from a traditional background, which means I spent like years and years sculpting in clay. But like I was saying, like this just feels like something else. It feels a combination of a bunch of things that I've done in the past, but it feels different. It feels just something else. But this is amazing, right? So I'm using the move brush right now, and then I'm gonna go to the settings, and of course you have a bunch of settings for the move. One thing that I toggle on was active layer only. So in the case that I have a bunch of layers, I want to control the layer that I'm moving. But all right, so here I can move this, right? This feels like any digital sculpting application, like ZBrush, for example. All right, I'm moving this. But the crazy thing is that I can keep looking at this right here, and I can come to the back and I can push this. I can look at it this way here, for example, and then I can grab this area here and just push it this way. You see how like how different it feels. So if I wanted to do something like this, for example, here, I would have to go this way and then move to the side and then come this way and then move to the side. But then here I can just kind of do this and then like go back, you know, like I'm kind of doing this and like using my motion, like using my hands and using my arms and using my body. And then you see like I created this twist, like looking from the front. There's no way any like X and Y applications will allow to do that. So you cannot do this on a tablet. So this is just like fascinating to me, because basically what I can do with the clay. So just imagine that I have a clay here and I want to do like a spiral around these characters, for example. I can just do this, right? So now like this was created in 3D space. So I I know like I get super excited about this, but I'm truly just like pumped and stoked that I can go in here like, all right, I want to do this, and then I want this guy to come in here, and then how about if I go this way, and then this way, and I can still move the piece around, and uh, and then damn, there you go. Now I have this thing here which looks pretty small, so I can imagine like, hey, how does that read from far away? And then what if this is like massive, right? Let's just bring this close. What if this is like a massive installation, and then like I'm like just a tiny little guy here. Maybe this is like a, I don't know, like an environment or something that we are building, and then all right, I'm just kind of stepping on it, and then damn, like this is massive. Um, so like, all right, I'm kind of floating in the middle of like this little thing, but no, maybe the scale is a little bit off, so we want this to feel like this way, or be this size and whatnot. So apart from that, and you can toggle to the left and to the right. It is like your undo and redo. Uh, so what else? So basically, all I know about sculpting here is that you can use the clay to create geometry like this, and then of course you can double tap and then carve things like that. If I hold uh, the left index finger. We need a name for this because it's very hard to just keep remember each finger it is. But so if I hold this kind of toggles. Like I said, like that's the shift, I believe. In ZBrush, for example, so that toggles the smooth. So I can do that, and I can hold this guy, and then now I have like this smooth brush, so I can just kind of smooth it out as if I was using like a torch in clay, where you kind of melt the edges and then everything kind of blends nicely. So this is something that I know. I used this a little bit yesterday when sculpting the hand. And then what else? I used the inflate a little bit too. So the inflate I used to kind of carving forms a little bit more control than using the clay to actually carving, because this one I can actually do like little passes and and it's smooth, or I can toggle it to be a little bit more positive, so I can actually draw with it and also like create nice shapes and transitions, for example. And then something that I learned from watching Gio's presentation was, in order to keep things very clean, he has like this really cool technique of just extracting all of these geometries, or I shouldn't say extracting, but just building everything separately. So he would look into this primary form, which is just a circle, and then you have something else attached. So instead of like building those two together, you just build with separate geometry. And then I tried it yesterday, and I do a little bit of that in ZBrush too, right? But I tried it yesterday and really helped me to control and to have a little bit more precision on this shape. So for example, I can just create a new layer. I'm on that layer already, and then we can go to the clay, and then I'm gonna grab maybe like this guy, for example. That's the one he used, and then we can just kind of add a little shape here. Let's just go for the paint, and then I can click this guy. Let's just go to the move now, and then I can kind of shape this to whatever shape I want. And then that way, what that allows me to do is to really have precision and control on how these forms are connecting, right? So instead of using, I could have done this using the inflate, for example, but this just gives me another way of thinking about this form. So again, thanks to Gio for putting that demo together, and props for him to coming up with like such a beautiful solution. Um, it's more like a workflow, right? I wouldn't, maybe not a solution, but it's more like a way of controlling the forms with precision, which I really liked. And like I was saying, like I do use separate geometries when sculpting in ZBrush, for example, but I guess he just goes one step further. So on the hand that I created, I did a combination of working with the forms, working with separate geometries for secondary forms, for example, and also using inflate and using the move, and just carving things using the clay, like I showed you guys before. So we can do this, for example, and then, all right, we need to blend these two pieces together, right? So we can come into, if I remember correctly, I can just toggle down, which allows me to select the geometry. So I'm going to hold my shift, click on this guy, select these two, and I can go to actions and then merge. And now these two are merged together, which allows me to come in here, for example, and then, kind of work on the transitions. And then the last thing I would just want to do with you guys is, all right, resolution is not that great. This is kind of very pixelated, right? So we can just go in here and increase the resolution. So you can see like the little boxes, they get smaller and smaller. And then with that, our resolution also gets higher and higher. So you can see like how clean my surface starts to look and how smooth everything looks right now. You see, and I can actually come in here, and then make this huge, and then we can just start moving. And then that's what I was saying. Like you can grab things here and then move to the inside, or I can look at this angle here and I can just do this, for example. I can do that, and then I can do that, and then you can start working on these forms. This is just fascinating. I'm in love, like literally. I don't know why it took me so long to get into this, but this just feels like amazing. So to wrap things up, this is probably like 1/10 of what Medium allows you to do. But just to kind of wrap things up, I just want to load uh, the model that I did yesterday. Let's just take a quick look on the model. And that's my little hand over there. All right. Hey, I don't know why my light is kind of all over the place. Let's see. All right. So here we are. Let's just kind of move this light around here. And then here it's my little hand. I really wish you guys could see what I'm seeing here, because it just feels way, way different than on a flat screen. I was looking at the images of the pictures that I posted, and although they look cool, um, the sensation of feeling these forms here, you can actually feel it. Uh, it's just completely different. I really wish you guys could experience this way. But then, anyways, here we are. We have two subtools, or two different layers, I should say. And then you can see like how the wrist is still like very sketchy and loose. You can see like the thumb as well. So I haven't really put a lot of effort into this. This is one of the transitions of, I had a different geometries for creating these shapes, even the tendons here as well. So you can see like how I started to blend things together, and how everything started to work. But that's about it today for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me just turn this. It's crazy because I was moving and I ended up like the other side of the room. So, but anyways, thanks guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Um, like I said, I'm still fairly new. This is my second day using this thing, so we're gonna learn a lot, and I will be sharing along the way the journey with you guys. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know in the comments, or if you have any tips as well, or any pointers to like some really good tutorials or articles or something, just let me know too as well. I'm more than happy to learn more about the whole VR community and the VR art world as well. So see you guys soon. Bye bye.